Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Skier's Mic. I'm so excited for today's episode on the Aspen Conversation series. I am joined by one of my absolute favorite people, Karen Kenworthy. Karen is the co-founder, board, and advisory partner of Stripes, a growth equity firm based in New York City that works with fast-growing consumer companies. Karen has spent the past 16 years on the investment team, helping to scale some of today's most innovative consumer technology and healthcare companies. Stripes has invested in everything, from on running shoes to Grubhub, Siete Chips, Erewhon. I feel like the list just really goes on. And Karen holds her BA from Yale University and her MBA from Stanford, and she was an R.J. Miller scholar as well as building her career out in New York. For the past, how many years were you doing?
20 years.
Yeah, 20 years. She moved to Aspen, or was it 4 years ago?
Yeah, just 5 years ago.
5 years ago, and she has a beautiful family, and yeah, I know you're so busy, so thank you so much for making the time.
I'm so happy to be here.
So I would love to just really start at the beginning. I know you grew up in Canada, and you were an amazing Olympian-level ice skater, which is, very impressive. And yeah, what was it like to grow up in Canada? Were you always curious and driven, or was that something you developed over time?
So it's a great question. I think the path for everyone is very different. For me, I was probably too driven and too focused during my high school years. I worked really hard at figure skating, so I think it taught me quite a lot about prioritization and time management. So I would go every day from 4 until 6:30 in the morning before school to figure skate. And then I went to school normally, and then actually only decided to apply to Yale at the very last minute because my guidance counselor suggested that I try one school in the U.S., and that was the school I applied to. And I would say in high school, my sort of focus on a passion, which then was figure skating and academics, probably helped me navigate some of the ups and downs and volatilities of high school. I would say that if I could give high school Karen one point of feedback today, just be to breathe a little bit and realize it's okay to make mistakes, because that wasn't really part of my DNA at the time.
You were like, go, go, go.
Yes.
Okay, so you went to Yale for undergrad, and I feel like that's probably given you a lot of, opportunities and just general connections. What was that experience like for you?
So I loved Yale. I love the people at Yale. It was probably the best experience, and I think that people in any college setting are what really drives your 4 years there. I took a double major in engineering and economics, and I think engineering, I was really the only woman in my engineering class. I actually used to come to the class and the professor would say, and the lady has arrived, know? And I think what that experience taught me is there's really nothing that you can't do. If it's, there wasn't, even though it was so atypical for a woman to be following that path at the time, I was just kind of myself, and I think it's what led me to then go into finance and also sort of navigate a fairly masculine career path as a woman. I think what I loved most about Yale was actually all the extracurriculars. So meeting with entrepreneurs, just going to all of the speakers, just meeting people that were so different from me. The people that would come out of the libraries that were so passionate about, I don't know, at the time, Greek history, whatever it was, that was just a very different way than my brain worked, which was very sort of linear and analytical. And so I think that was probably the best experience coming from Yale, which was just learning from people who came from such different walks of life and seeing how they made decisions and seeing how they prioritized things and what mattered to them, and kind of learning from that broad exposure.
Yeah. I love what you said about the scale of people there were there, because I'm sure you have so many different majors and people that came and are passionate about such a broad variety of different subjects that you can really meet so many different
Absolutely.
types of people.
So my husband, Scott, actually went to Yale too. And
Okay.
he studied economics.
Yes.
And he played lacrosse. And he was very, very narrow in his focus. And to this day, he says, actually, we were just talking about it this past weekend, he wishes he broadened his horizons a little bit more in college when he could have. And so that would just be my suggestion for you guys as you think about where you want to go and what you want to do when you're at school, is you will be in a certain path, but take the opportunity to really meet and learn from people who are on different paths, because that is what will kind of prepare you for like the real world and business life, where people are coming from all different perspectives.
Yeah, completely. And he was like a student athlete, so I'm had like
he was set.
Yes.
You know? Yes.
Okay, so after Yale, you went on to Stanford for business school, and you're now a visiting professor there,
Yes.
which is so cool. And I was wondering if there was a moment, like while you were at Stanford or maybe during your time at Yale, when you realized you were really passionate about like business.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, I was always told that you will never really know what you'll be, like, or who you want to be until it way later in your career.
Yes.
And I would still suggest it. Like today, I'm still like, now what am I going to do for my next 10 years? So at no point was like, this is definitely my path and I will follow it. In fact, at Yale, I was pre-med, so I thought I was going to go into medicine. And I went and worked at a company called Bain after graduating before Stanford. Bain is a management consulting firm, and you get exposed to many different types of companies, all different stages and sizes. And at that point, I loved the problem solving and the people component of business, and that's when I ultimately decided I wanted to stay in business. And that is actually, Stanford was kind of after that. Like I left consulting, and that's when I took the big risk, and I went and met with my partner Ken Fox at Stripes, and that's really when Stripes came to be, and the vision behind Stripes was developed. And then I went to Stanford, and Stanford for me more again to expose my thinking and to take myself out of like the rat race that was New York and Yale, and kind of take me to a different landscape. Exactly, to really understand like who I wanted to be, what did I want to achieve, did I want to follow this path that was like the very standard path, or did I want to go and take risks and do something different? And so I would highly suggest that like at every stage, there's no right or wrong path. And there's no right or wrong decision. And it's more about exposure, particularly at your ages and for the next 10 to 15 years. Just expose yourself to more and more opportunities so you can decide what really, you're passionate about, and what really, makes you excited when you think about building something.
I think that's so cool. And it's really interesting. You were so young.
Yeah.
Like when you came up with that idea and met with Ken, how old were you? Like 20?
So I met Ken when I was 24.
Okay.
He is an amazing visionary and had, a real passion for what I invest in at Stripes is growth stage businesses. So companies that are, just for context, that are between, 10 and 200 million in revenue. And Ken had already founded a venture firm, and we believe there was this opportunity to build companies where they didn't carry the risk of these very early stage businesses, but they weren't yet scaled. And at that stage of a company, you really have to build the infrastructure and the team around an amazing product or a magic product that's working. It was a huge risk. Like at 24, I left that path of Bain and investment banking and went and did something that, I remember my partners at Bain were like, where are you going? What are you doing? And I think that was probably the best decision I could have ever made in my life at a very low risk time in my life, meaning the implications were low. And I would suggest that to anyone. If I were to look back on my career, I would really regret not having taken like that kind of path less traveled at a time when the implications were not huge. And so that's when I was this thinking, Palmer, when you sent, when you asked me to talk here, what one of my key areas that I'd love to focus on was really just like take risks and have some fun and take chances and don't take it too seriously. And even if you fail, you'll learn a lot.
Yeah.
Because for the first 2 years after I joined Ken at Stripes, I mean, we had no money. I was like in a room with no windows in New York City. I had gone to Yale. I'd worked at Bain, and I'm like trying to raise money. And so many times I thought, what have I done?
Exactly. No, I'm sure.
What have I done?
You were like looking at your, classmates from
Yes.
Yale going on all different
100%.
things. And you're like, but I think that really does show, like, if you believe in yourself and an idea, you stick with it.
Yeah.
You already, talked a little bit about Stripes. So successful. And I was wondering, like, what do you look for in companies that really, like, stand out to you?
Yeah. So the most important aspect of, maybe there's 3 or 4. One is the people running it. How do the leaders think? Like, how does the founder think? How does the management team work together? 2 is, like, are you investing behind something super special?
Yeah.
Like we on our website, if you go to the Stripes website, see that we invest in amazing. And what does that mean is we have to invest in a product, whether or not it's a software product or a consumer product, that's really special.
Yeah.
Because if you can do that, it's those products that can navigate like the volatility in a market, because you have some buffer, because there's just like something really special there.
Yes.
Is the company innovative? Do they change? Are they nimble? Do they continue to evolve on themselves? Technology, but also product. Like, you can't have the same product for 5 years. You have to continue to improve that product and take feedback. And then on the brand side of things, so we invest in software businesses and consumer, and I help lead our consumer group.
Yes.
On the brand side of things, is there an emotional connection between what the company stands for and what the consumer thinks? And is there something actually, like, when the consumer engages with that company, do they feel something different?
Yeah.
So
that's something that I think all your companies really do a great job on, especially I think Sieta really stands out to me, is they have this like homegrown family aspect that is originally, I think, why we didn't even know you were an investor in it. And we had, my mom was like loving these chips, and she would always get them because they had such a familiar vibe that they were putting out like time and effort, and it was homegrown.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what's changed, like 10 years ago even. The connection of a consumer with a brand was very different than it is today, right? Like, you wouldn't be able to see all of the color about the family that founded Sieta, et cetera, 10 to 15 years ago. Now with social media, that connection of consumers to brands is way tighter than it's ever been.
No, I'm sure. So you lived in New York, and then you moved to Aspen like around 5 years ago. What inspired you to that decision to move?
Yeah, so I would say both my husband Scott and I had been 20 years like heads down building our career.
Yes.
And actually that's another point of feedback, which if I could do it again, I would still do it that way.
Yeah.
Because I felt we put the time in to build and take risks and be focused at a young age, which then gives us flexibility to do that now.
Exactly.
And when 5 years ago our kids were 7 and 5, and we just wanted to give them a bit more of a balanced life, and so that was really the catalyst for the change.
And Aspen's so special.
Aspen's so special. You can't get that balance very much. And New York was a little tough because it was almost like we were living in the same momentum-based lifestyle that we worked in. So there was no separation, right? Whereas now we both still work, but we can have a little bit more of a separation where there's real life-work balance.
So you talked about how you have 2 like amazing kids, and what are some like life lessons or values that you've learned that you really want to teach your girls?
Yeah. Well, so, and this is going to be a little bit different because I don't know many people that would say this, that it's important, as important in life as it is in business, but I actually think like kindness and transparency are as important in business as they are in life, and life as they are in business. I have found that through building this career in finance, which is a little bit of a different path than a traditional, than a women typically take, more so now, which is fantastic. But I think the kindness piece and the transparency piece fed a lot of my career success, because people want to work with you.
They trust you.
And they trust you.
Yeah.
And when you build trust, particularly with your leadership teams of companies that you're invested in, you get information differently. And you can make decisions differently. And the same goes in life. And so really when you're like, what do you teach your daughters? I'm teaching them the exact same thing, which is just like, be kind and be honest.
Yes.
You know, and if something doesn't make you feel great, you've got to say it. And if something doesn't make me feel great, if something doesn't seem right in a board meeting, I speak up.
Exactly.
And I'm like, there's a red flag here, this seems off. And that's the same in life and business.
Yeah.
And also just maybe more stepping back and thinking about life path. I think there is a lot more than just achievement that drives happiness. And so I often say, just follow what would make you happy. You know, don't do something because other people want you to do it or you think it's the right thing to do. If I had done that, I would never have left for stripes, you know, meaning like it was crazy at the time. Right. And I think just have confidence in yourself that even if you go off and have to, come back, that's all learning and it all ends up being part of the story as long as you're following what feels right to you.
Yeah. And I love that too, because I think as like a motivated younger person or even as a woman, like you feel like you want to have a path, you want to have a journey that you're going to stick to and a plan, but to have that confidence and to feel like I can go out and try something, and if it doesn't work, like I'm still going to be the same person. Yeah,
totally. And actually, that's what I've learned most through Stanford and through all the companies and all the entrepreneurs I talked to throughout my career. There is no right path.
Yeah.
Like some of these guys would start a company, or women would start a company at 38, having failed, done this, and then have just biggest success. But they've learned along the way. So there is no right path. There's no right path. The Yale investment banking, blah, 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 that could be the right path for someone, but it's not the right path for everyone. There's no right path as long as you have grit, you continue to work hard, you have a passion, and you stay focused towards it.
And so this is a little bit more about Stripes. Was there ever like a deal or a brand that you didn't end up working with that you regret?
Oh my gosh, so many that you guys would know though. Okay, do you know Yeti?
Yes.
Yeah. So Yeti was one. Yes. So Yeti was one. There is a software business called Toast, which you guys probably know now because it's on. Sometimes you'll in order to reserve a spot at a restaurant, you use it. It's like an app now, but it's a huge company, and that's maybe 2% of what it actually does, but it drives a lot of point of sale information for restaurants. The answer is there are so Groons. I mean, there's so many, that we looked at, and for one reason or another, we decided to pass. I think part of how we've evolved as a firm is you learn kind of what did we get wrong and what did we get right, and the fact is doing a bad investment takes so much more time than not doing an investment.
Yeah.
So we've probably also passed on many that wouldn't have worked. And we've also done a number that didn't work and required so much time to try to get an outcome. So,
and as much like you had so much success, but it does come with like the losses and
100%. Yeah, you cannot get them all right.
Exactly.
And it's actually more about how do you learn from the runs that you didn't get right, and then also how do you just try to problem solve in a way that gets to a position that is just okay, even though it's not great.
Exactly.
It's not.
Yes. Okay, well, I love to end each of my episodes with a segment I started called Pockets of Joy, just because there is so much like busy life and work, and to find those little times where you have happiness or like a fulfillment. So has there been anything recently that...
Okay, so I absolutely love this question.
Yes.
I absolutely love it. And I actually, when I left New York City and moved to Aspen, I would say that for the 20 years that I was like really heads down, like building my career and my kids, I didn't appreciate the little moments of joy, because I was building so much
You're
towards
just like
this.
working.
Yes.
Yes.
And this has come actually more in my 40s, and I love that you're asking this question because I would like my kids to learn it earlier. And now I feel pockets of joy all the time.
Yeah.
Like I feel pockets of joy in the morning when I have my tea. And I'm thinking about what I want to, do that day, and look at my schedule. I'm like, oh, this is a pretty full, interesting day.
Yes.
Many moments of joy when I sit with my kids. I have moments of joy when I'm driving in this beautiful mountains
Or hiking.
and whatever it is. I have so
Yes.
many, but I don't think I was given that gift to myself until too late.
Yeah.
And I think it is such a beautiful question, because
Thank you.
the more you can just give yourself that as you're building,
Yes.
the fuller your life will be,
Yeah.
And I think I always thought there was like never an end where you can build towards. And I think my feeling now is, if you can feel these moments of joy along the ride, it is not where you're ending. It is literally
Exactly.
how you feel along that ride.
Yeah. It's like the moment and the fulfillment.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Karen, for your time. This has been
Of course.
so inspiring. To everybody listening, I really hope this episode encourages you to stay curious and go after what matters to you the most. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Great. Thank you.